Well, the Danish Dementia Research Center has a great interest in studying how we can improve the early diagnosis of neurodegenerative disorders, mainly dementia disorders, but also some of the more rare neurodegenerative disorders. And we are also very much interested in intervention studies. In other words, how can we improve the well-being, the life of people who have to live with these conditions. So those two goals are the main goals of our research. We do also do some more basic research, trying to find the causes and the mechanisms behind some of these disorders. And finally, we have some epidemiological studies going on based on the unique nationwide registries in Denmark. Well, I think we are very much excited about a study that we are about to conclude and report now, which has been running for the past 3 years, and that's a large randomized controlled trial on physical exercise in patients with mild Alzheimer's disease. The idea being that perhaps moderate to high intensity physical exercise might improve cognition and perhaps even lower the beta amyloid load in the brain, inspired by what has been found in mice studies. I think it's quite unique that we do now have biomarkers that can document the presence of these diseases in people. When I started research in this field, we didn't have much proof, so to say, to demonstrate to patients and caregivers that there was actually a disease in the brain, other than, of course, our clinical evaluation. But because the consequences of these diseases are, at least in the mild phases, not so easy to identify and not so easy to distinguish from other conditions, for instance, stress and depression, it's just so important that we have biomarkers that can document that there's actually something is wrong in the brain and it might be Alzheimer's disease. Well, this is very important because what we're looking at in this study is biofluid markers, and particularly biomarkers in the spinal fluid. And the reason why this is particularly challenging is that there has been a lot of variability between centers and research laboratories in how to measure these biomarkers, and also in the interpretation and attitude in clinicians about whether they were worth using or not. So I really think this is a very good example of how you can improve a very important field by making good groups in Europe go together and try to find solutions. And I think all the outcome of this project and all the collaboration, all the working groups really serve as a proof that proof of concept in a way that this was worth initiating. Well, the Danish contributions have been, first of all, we have taken a co-lead in the sub-study where these biofluid markers, the CSF spinal fluid biofluid markers, have been compared with the results of the advanced amyloid PET scanning, the imaging studies. So that is one part. The other part where we have been the leading center has been the development of practical recommendations and guidelines for the clinicians based on all the results, all the research from the groups in this consortium. So these recommendations have just been completed here at this meeting in Gothenburg, and will be published hopefully within a few months, and they will serve as a guide to all clinicians, also clinicians who have not been part of this study, who are seeing patients with memory disorders, and a guide how to use the CSF biomarkers. Well, I certainly would like to see new drugs developed for this field. We have not had any new drugs for the past 15 years at least, and we just need more activity in this field of research. So of course I'm hoping for the development of, if not a cure, at least some disease-modifying treatments. I think that would be very important, not only for us as physicians, but also for the people and the caregivers. But in the meantime, of course, we need to know which other measures we can do to improve the life of people with Alzheimer's disease. And in this context, of course, our study with physical exercise, I think, is very exciting. Yeah. In my opinion, this is the most exciting field of neuroscience, really. And I anticipate that for young researchers, it is important to know that in the next 20 years, hopefully, there will be a significant advancement in this field. I'm not in doubt on that. And so I would give the advice that if you're interested in neuroscience, this field will be one of the most promising and exciting fields to go into. And there are so many well-educated, exciting, and unique people working with that, who also invite young people to come. So be interested in this field and try to visit perhaps also some laboratories, some research group in other countries. The most important benefit, I think, is the networking between groups, between young researchers and senior researchers, between countries and between disciplines. Because the cross-disciplinary research is really where the new ideas will come up, and some also important questions will be solved.